In this next chapter, we're going to be dealing with faith. In the 11th chapter of Hebrews, Paul cites a long list of achievements which he declares are the direct results of faith. To that list could be added countless other great accomplishments where faith has been the propelling power. All great inventors followed their guiding star in their efforts to demonstrate truth, and when they were convinced their problem could be worked out along a certain line, their faith compelled them to go forward until the goal was attained. The compelling urge within them permitted no loss of time. Often nights as well as days were passed in tireless striving. Great explorers have ever been fired with the same resistless impulse until, contrary to the advice of their friends and seemingly in the face of reason itself, they have voyaged forth to enlarge the known boundaries of the world. Christopher Columbus had a mighty faith. That faith enabled him to organize his expedition and carry it to a successful conclusion in spite of the jibes of friends, the ridicule of enemies, and the cowardly mutiny of his crew. Now we should also note that where Christopher Columbus was planning to go, he didn't end up. He was a little off the mark by several hundred miles.
Yeah.
But, you know, after crossing an ocean, any land is better than no land.
Exactly.
Joaquin Miller expresses beautifully the unconquerable spirit of the man in his poem Columbus. After sailing the unknown seas for days, in the midst of storms and with no sight in land, no land in sight, the spokesman for the crew pleaded with him to turn back. Every time Columbus was approached upon the subject, his answer was quick and positive: sail on, and on. You know, it's the old saying, once you get halfway across the swamp, it's just as hard to go back as it is to just keep going forward. We might continue to cite one other instance after another where men, by means of a mighty faith, were able to accomplish the seemingly impossible and in a very fine way serve the race. But what is faith, and how may it be acquired? Faith is very easily defined, and everyone has it in large measure. Faith is feeling, and all feeling is faith. Think this statement over, especially the latter part of it. All feeling is faith. If that is true, then one's faith may lead him downward instead of upward. It may be destructive as well as constructive. Summed up, this means that the direction of one's course in life depends upon his faith or feelings. When life is vibrating on a low plane, it is the direct result of that individual's faith or feelings. You may have a feeling of fear regarding a certain thing, event, or outcome. If your feelings are sufficiently intense, or if they are not short-circuited by feelings in the opposite direction, you will bring into manifestation that which you fear. That's the adage of so you shall seek, so you shall find. You may hate with such vehemence that your faith becomes creative and murder may result. Faith is feeling, whether it be constructive or destructive. Therefore, the problem is not how to acquire faith, for all have it, but the great question is how to create the kind of faith you want. Jesus meant just this when he said, according to your faith, so be it unto you. He also said, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. A woman read this passage and decided she would test out the master's statement. She looked at the hill back of her home one night and told it to remove itself. But when she rose in the morning, the hill was still there. She said, I knew it wouldn't work. Was Jesus mistaken, or did the woman lack faith in her command? She had faith, but it was faith that the hill would not be removed. And besides that, that's a foolish thing. The hill is there for a purpose. Why disrupt its purpose? Just for the satisfaction of vanity and ego. Leave well enough alone. The officials of the Union Pacific Railroad, when putting through their line to the Pacific coast, faced a gigantic problem. The Rocky Mountains stood squarely between them and their goal. They must either conquer this obstacle or permit their project to be thwarted. They thought over their problem and worked at it until they convinced themselves that the mountains could be removed. Then they set about their task, and by tunneling through tons of earth, pulling down the sides of the mountains, and boring through tons of rock, they finally accomplished their purpose. By their faith, which at first was only as a grain of mustard seed, they removed mountains, or portions thereof. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Faith is built up within man out of his desires and hopes, increasing little by little until it begins to shape their life. It is the real evidence of things that are not yet in visible form, but which are taking shape in the invisible. If you feel strongly in a given direction, know that you are going to realize that feeling, and when you feel that you can accomplish your purpose, do not be afraid to go ahead, for your faith is a guarantee that it can be done. If you desire to do a thing, but feel that you cannot, do not attempt it at the time. Just keep it in mind and continue thinking, planning, and studying along the same line. After a while, you will discover you not only feel that you can do it, but you will be almost impelled by the force of your feelings to undertake it. Proceed at that time without any misgivings, for the victory is already yours. You've already won in your mind. Another metaphysician makes this statement: this is the victory that overcomes the world, even our faith. We shall never be victorious in life's experiences until we feel that we can overcome them. We may reason it out with our conscious mind and work out every detail, but just so long as we do not feel that way about it, we shall fail to accomplish the desired results. We overcome only in proportion to our faith. The relative value of faith and works often comes up for discussion. Some claiming that faith is more important, others that works accomplish greater things than faith. James said, faith without works is dead. That is exactly true. He might have said that faith without works does not exist. In reality, there is no such thing as faith without works. Faith is feeling, and feeling is creative, and will just as surely result in works as it is true that day follows night. For that reason, one must not entertain thoughts of hatred or anger toward anyone, for if he does, in time they will reach the realm of subconscious and become faith or feeling, when they will assuredly create after their own kind. One may have an intellectual belief in a thing without creating a condition as a result of that belief, but belief is not faith. Any questions on that?
I have to read it again.
Yeah, just hold on one second.
Yeah.
I think it's saying don't ruminate on a thought until it turns into a bad emotion. It doesn't have to be that way. You can just make a decision. I'm not going to help somebody anymore, and it doesn't have. You don't have to have the feeling. You don't have to manifest feelings of hatred or anger that go with it. It can just be a belief without the
Right. Well, and then the emotions are one of the most difficult things to overcome, and that's why, as I've indicated previously, and I don't normally recommend it for everybody, but the philosophic saying that he who is without joy and sorrow is truly balanced. If you have no anger, then there is nothing negative to become of it. Because if you start manifesting that, it, you know, when, you know, the conscious mind, you know, so, you know, you give this to somebody in the conscious mind. If you do it long enough and ardently enough, it goes into the subconscious mind. And what do we know about the subconscious mind? It
Believe
will,
anything you tell it.
it'll, yeah, and it'll make
Works
it
to
true.
make it true.
Yeah,
True.
that's all it does.
Right.
Well, when you hate, you only hurt the person. Well, you hurt the other eventually, but you really hurt yourself more.
Right, right. And it's easily seen in your,
Your action.
well,
Persona.
in your energy field. It's
Yes.
reflected in your energy field. And usually shows up as a dark spot. Besides that, you know, if you allow somebody to do that, what have you done? You've given them authority over you.
Yes.
Kind of like giving them your power.
Right, exactly, that's exactly it. You've given your power over to them. You know, and I can't think of anybody offhand, except for your sparrow there, who I would give that authority to. There's no one, you know, you just don't do that. Because not only will it piss you off that you let them do this to you, it'll piss you off more because you let them do this to you. Faith is the cause, works the result. Faith, the living seed, works the harvest. Faith is a compelling power and compels its possessor to accomplishment. Sometimes a person who is considered lazy suddenly finds himself, that is, he finds something which engrosses his attention and he wants to develop his idea. It may or may not be worthwhile, but it sets him to work and he plugs away with great energy and endurance in the direction in which his faith is directing him. Paul might just as truly have said, "Works without faith are dead, for it works both ways." Too many people are working away at some employment in which they have no faith. It may be some mechanical process for which they have no feeling, and they do not know how to create the right kind of feeling with reference to their method of doing it. So they toil on day after day in some irksome grind until, in time, the absence of the right kind of faith in their lives leaves its mark upon their bodies, intellects, and souls. They sink lower and lower into a drab existence. As stated in the beginning of the lesson, it is important that one have the right kind of faith. Feelings must not be allowed to run rampant, else they will wreck the life. But faith must be built upon sound reason and knowledge. The farmer does not trust to the kindness and the chance and the germination of the crop he desires, but plants the kind of seed that will produce a particular kind of harvest. If he neglected to do his sowing, seed would germinate, vegetation would appear, and he would in time have a harvest, but it would be a harvest of tares instead of wheat. It works the same in the fertile field of the mind. The conscious mind must sow the right kind of seed in the way of suggestions and direct the planting in order to create the kind of feelings that will produce the desired results. The relationship between the conscious and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind plants the seed, subconscious mind makes it grow. Parents are doing this for their children when they send them to school. They encourage them to associate with children of the better class and direct them in the reading of good literature. They urge them to develop any talent they may have in music or other art and hold before them high ideals. All of this tends to make the child strive for excellence, and he grows and develops in a wonderful way during his years in school because his faith has been directed into right channels which have led him onward and upward. Too often when the school days are over, the aspiration for great achievement is gone, and the individual settles down into a humdrum existence. All through life, one needs the inspiration of a great ideal, some point of excellence to be attained. In the channel of life, which is faith or feelings, is fed by the pure streams of constructive thinking, well-directed reading, and earnest effort. The life will be peaceful and powerful, creating environment and experiences that are desirable. And I know from personal experience that people in my high school class who graduated who's worked hard to graduate, you know, be top of the class, went to schools like Texas A&M, University of Texas, and slouched and you know, sort of like Animal House. He became the Animal House syndrome. But they worked so hard to get there, so they figured they owed themselves. You have faith along some line in which you could excel. That faith may be as a grain of mustard seed. Encourage it, and it will become mighty and direct the whole trend of your life. To the statements you have been using, add this: my faith is creative.
I like that.
So in your meditations, you will be meditating on the phrases, I am peaceful, I have the power to think, I am in quiet meditation, I am contacting my good now, I am powerful, I am my own authority, I am the expression of the divine. The solution of my problem is an infinite mind. I am myself. I control my emotions. All is good. I give of myself. My faith is creative. Questions, comments? A lot to think about.
Yeah, good lessons.
And I have found that that which you work on, it becomes ingrained in you, and you just do it as a matter of circumstance.
Practice makes perfect.
Right. Well, and also, if you're not an advocate of what you're advocating, then why advocate it? Now, to give you something to think about, 2 more lessons and you'll be halfway through the course.
I was thinking by lesson 30, that's a lot of saying.
Yeah. It'll take you, that'll be a meditative session of probably about an hour and a half, because it'll take you at least 45 minutes to get through.
Good affirmations, yeah.
Yeah, because when you're going through, and basically they're affirmations, you know.
Yeah.
As you dwell on each one and you keep adding, you know, more fuel to the fire, you know, by the time you get to the last and you've already made the trip and you got there just in time to find out that it's time to turn around and go back again.
Yeah, do it again.
But the thing of it is, if you make this part of your being, part of your life, it'll stay with you.
Yeah.
And it'll make good things. And I have found that if you make it part of your life, and things, you know, difficulties make us grow. They give us the opportunity to grow because we draw on things, on energies that are resources that we may not readily recognize in ourselves. And so this, you know, difficulties bring out those extra resources and help us get through whatever it is that we're going through. As long as you have the faith that those are there. And trust in the universe. I trust in the universe, absolutely. I've learned to do that. And I won't say that, you know, I haven't had difficulties, because I have, but I recognize them as growth experiences.
I always used to think that instead of stumbling blocks, they're stepping stones.
Yeah, well, it's like when I was traveling across country and I was on Highway 10 in West Texas. I mean, and I was just hitching, you know, and found myself in the middle of nowhere under an overpass and been there for 4 hours, and you know nothing over a scrub brush that looked like a tree, and I just went out, you know, in the sun, and all right, I'm doing the work now. You start doing your share. And 15 minutes later, a car came by, picked me up, took me across the desert.
I only took 10 when I positively had to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just imagine. I was telling
Yeah.
Jess, it's
40's good.
Yeah, Highway 10 through South Texas is nothing but miles and miles and nothing but more miles and
like
miles.
Wyoming.
Flat.
Hotter and
Flat.
hotter
Yeah.
and hotter and less.
Wow.
And
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a miserable environment, but the jackrabbits are out there hitching rides. And in summer, it's almost insufferable.
Texas is.
Yeah. So if you come across something, the scrub brush, you know, you just get down and worship it like a sequoia tree.
and never go on it if you don't have air conditioning.
Yeah, and then at night, the temp drops down to bone chilling out in the desert. Oh, yeah. So anyway, I think we're all doing very nicely.
This is a wonderful doing everything. It's good.
And you all may be the last recipients of it. You know. Unless Beryl goes me, you know, for another couple of years and, you know, says, you need to do this again. All right. She is my inspiration. Well, let's munch and relax for a little bit. We're finished a little early. And, you know, if y'all want to go ahead and call it a day, that's fine. Me, I'm going to relax a little bit. Last time we were sort of pressed for time to get out, but this time we're doing okay.
Boulders are getting bigger and.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I like go school shopping when I don't have no kids, you know.
You know,
Get everything at cost then.
When I went to teach in Atlanta, when I left Houston, my library was in excess of somewhere in the area between 200 and 300 books. All in philosophy, various esoteric philosophies and disciplines. So, and I even had one book that was a 1 of 20. It was a special print that somebody did on parchment paper and hand drew all the illustrations and everything. It was a 1 of 20. And when I bought it back in that time, it was $120 for it.
Wow.